Counselor, was you here last meeting?
It's real.
He was.
He was? Okay.
Yeah.
Special
He
opinion.
wasn't the one before.
Ah, okay.
Somewhere else that I see you. Well, you were at the golf field.
Yeah, I took off,
Was it a
Wednesday,
Wednesday,
Thursday, Friday.
I see you there Sunday. Were you just spectating Sunday?
No, I'm still working, I volunteered, there's,
I'll just bring it anyway.
old police officer was looking for security forces, I volunteered.
Yeah. That's what I'll do, we'll just bring it over.
Lot of fun.
Down here, no.
We got to, we were down in the pavilion on 17. My buddy got his glasses in there. That was a nice game, by the way. And so when the last group won at 18, we got to follow them up on the fairway. Gee, was that fun. Oh, man. Hey, Tony, you called me the other day. I'm sorry I didn't get you called back because
Well, that's right, it was nothing important.
I was too busy talking to your neighbors, or my neighbors, your show line.
It was nothing too important, I was just gonna mention that.
It's all about numbers. Yes, they wanna sell X amount and that's it.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna mention to make it a lot easier to get around the corner. If a damn blue Ford pickup wasn't parked halfway out the street.
Is this something new, combine from Kings or what is that?
It's somebody's prototype, where did you see that?
Red and green.
So, well, that was the first one.
Red and yellow.
In the stock trade.
Oh, yeah.
My guess is that that's Agco's new machine, can you send me that picture?
You building that in Jackson?
No. But that's the only people that I know that are in the process of prototype
That's,
testing.
that's the dragger. See, I don't know nothing about it, because the troopers were there.
Oh, right.
We didn't even get the call went through the state radio.
Oh.
So
So
Merv.
is that like a three-wheel,
Well, it's not a track system.
three-wheel, but a
Mac
three-wheel
Merv.
track they call it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
The
it was a three-wheel.
Yeah,
That'd be a five-wheel track.
So he owns it, he called me up and I'm looking through all the reports, I can't find out.
Two bogey wheels and.
Because it's his fence, well, they ended up taking out the solar panel. You know, they went through that twice.
Pretty soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, early, like 2 months ago, like end of July.
Ship it all,
They
all of them.
went through it.
It's hard to get her on my
And
end.
then you're ready to run a farm like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I guess they.
I tried to pull up the
solar
solar
panel.
Well, that's a $5 discount.
Make sure that.
Yeah, to get it right.
There's those people that pull on
The
the
reverse or whatever.
He told me
I had
seven days,
nothing.
so I won't listen to my
No,
minutes.
it didn't even show up on our call screen,
Oh, wow.
because it went right to state radio, Kurt, because the troopers handled that action.
Jeremy, how are you?
He said they asked what happened.
That was a funny exchange. That was funny. Yeah, when I read that, I thought, oh, boy, that could be misconstrued. So I misconstrued. Some people, not me, would misconstrue that. Not me.
Oh, no, I swear to goodness, I said, you should have pulled over and cleaned off the roads, because you was upside down in the curb. I said, yeah, I'm here.
I had that set up to automatic.
I talked him into staying, so I did it.
Okay.
So
I
there's
just
deputy
got
on
the bait.
scene,
Okay.
or,
No, at that, there was an older couple.
Maybe afterwards, you know, been here in a road in Trudeau.
right, yeah. Okay, so then they went down.
They were first there.
Yep, we're ready.
Call meeting to order. Start with a roll call.
Okay, Mayor Manning,
That's twice now, same
Brenneman?
drift about.
Here.
Keel,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
and Monahan is absent with notice.
Okay. Do we have any additions or motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And none. We have a motion to approve the minutes from 9/18/2018.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I wasn't here, but I can't abstain, and we don't have 4 people, right? Aye.
You can vote, you can always approve minutes if you're not here.
Yeah, I just, you know.
No bills submitted. All right, public comments. Any public input on non-agenda items tonight? Okay. Hearing none. Move down to review, discuss policy 2018-1 for boulevard tree maintenance. Thank you for putting all this, working with this and putting us in our packet.
Yeah, so, a few months ago, we talked about this earlier in the year about possibly putting together a policy for how we take care of maintaining the city's boulevard trees. So Craig and I have been working on this. Basically, this policy here, right now, what the city is doing is basically everything. We plant them, we take care of them, we trim them, we remove them, we take away the stumps. I mean, it all falls, if it's a boulevard tree in that boulevard area, the city's been taking care of it, which is fine, but every year we are adding more and more trees. Me and Craig just figured today, with what we add every year for Tree City, we've added over 1,000 trees in the last, since we started being a Tree City USA. So, same number of staff, a lot more trees, a lot more care and maintenance. So, we put together this policy, and basically, we still would like to, as a city, be able to keep planting boulevard trees and to designate what gets planted in the boulevard. We would plant them, basically we would get them started up and going, take care of them till they're 3 years old, and then after that, once they're established, then have the homeowner basically take care of the trimming them up and if they're hanging over the sidewalk, trim them back there or in front of the signs, take care of them at that point. And then, once they get to, the end of their life, if it looks like if they get diseased or if, for some reason gets damaged, if they're dying or whatnot, then we would come back in as a city, remove it, take away the tree and the stump, and that would be at the city's expense as well. So, basically, it's just taking some of that maintenance during that life of that tree and putting it onto the adjacent property owners.
Is, so no grandfather clause, for in other words, on my boulevard, which I would love to do my own trees anyway, those guys butchered it last year. I'm
Yeah,
kidding,
mine too,
Craig.
but.
Give him a hard time on that. It's all Terry's fault. At any rate, if someone comes in and says, hey, I agreed to have this boulevard tree under the assumption that the city would maintain it, how do we handle that?
And I don't know how we'd really figure out who's grandfathered in
Right.
or not. I mean, I guess you can start from
remove it.
right now, but.
and count the rings.
No, you could just remove it. If they don't want to maintain it.
Yeah.
We've got all the records of
Alright,
what we
over.
planted from how many years ago?
Okay,
we've
I mean, I don't see it being an issue, but I
And
mean.
I gotta say, a lot of people are real good about just trimming their own tree. I mean, but you got those some that, oh, this is the boulevard, it's the city's, I do it, they do it, and calling us up constantly. I mean, a lot of them just do it,
Right.
which.
This is
which
for
nice.
any boulevard tree,
Yes, for any boulevard tree.
regardless if it's Tree City USA or.
Regardless, yeah.
Yeah, we're just.
The only thing I think we had in there was that it was only if they, for the first 3 years, is if we plant the tree, but if they plant their own, isn't that what we put in there? I'm trying to think, if we
It
talked about
doesn't
it.
specify that out, but.
We don't let them plant in the boulevard,
Yeah, unless,
so.
yeah.
Oh,
We talked a little bit about, but then we thought,
Trees on
well,
Main Street. that
they
are-
can't really plant their own in the boulevard because
Unless you get
we
permission from
govern
us.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then can they just cut the boulevard tree down if it's?
No,
Okay, that's in here, I can find
I thought we had something in there about.
the boulevard tree removals.
Yeah. They have to get permission for us to take it down, they have to get permission from us, basically, if they want to remove the tree, and we will not, like we were talking about it, and I think it's in here, I'm not out to look at the wording, but basically, if they want a tree down, and it's not, it doesn't need to come down, if it doesn't, not infested or anything like that, they just want it down because they want it down, we will not pay to take it down.
Basically,
That's, if we approve it, they have to take it down and pay for it themselves.
under removals, like the last sentence says, all removals will be done by the city and or its contractors. No removals can be done by private citizens without prior approval of the tree marshal, who is great. There's a tree marshal.
Because you get a raise.
Does he get a badge? That's what I want.
With a badge,
No, it didn't work, I've had it for quite a while.
Yeah. There is one caveat in here about emergency trimming, so, there are times where the city, like when we, do the slurry seal, you know, the equipment's so tall or whatnot, we need some of those branches trimmed off, you know, we won't put, this is a city project, we won't put that on the homeowner, the city will do that, and not charge that cost to them.
What's the definition of boulevard?
Anything in the right of way.
Boulevard, the open strip of right-of-way located between the back of the curb and the private property line, so basically, curb to their private property line.
I don't have a curve.
I was gonna say, the folks on Part T and the folks.
Basically, anything that's green surface between the property pin and the hard surface is all boulevard.
It's not within your property pins, that's, yeah,
Okay.
that's a city.
I just wanna make sure there's a definition
Yeah.
for it.
Boulevard, definition for boulevard is the green space in the right
Oh,
of way.
yeah, it's right here, back on the curve. Well, it says curve.
Yeah, it does say back curb, but.
So is the sidewalk considered, is that in the
That's in
right of
the
way or is
boulevard.
that on the private property?
95% of them are in the right of way.
In the right of way?
Yep, there's a few sidewalks that the boulevard area, the right of way area was way offset, like on Munt.
Yeah.
So them sidewalks are actually on private.
200 Mary Lane.
There's some goof areas, but at least 95% of the sidewalk is in the public right of way.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to approve the policy?
I think if we do make a motion to approve it tonight, we should approve it with an update that takes out the verbiage about the curb in there. just
Yeah, I was
to-
gonna say, I think
clean
maybe
that up.
we'll want to redo that definition of the boulevard, so, and I can come up with a new one, so.
I do want, Tony, what would you?
Well, I just want to speak out very much in favor of this, having lived in Sioux Falls for 20 years. I mean, this mirrors a lot of what Sioux Falls policy is, and I was actually kind of really surprised when I came to town and I trimmed my tree, and Teresa said, "You're not supposed to touch that tree, that's our tree." Because we're always supposed to take care of the tree, and at that time I mentioned to Teresa, I think the city really needs to look at that because it's gonna get overwhelming for staff to take care of trees. One thing I didn't hear you talk about in this, is there anything about height above sidewalk and height above street in this?
When we talk about emergency, there's no specific height. When we talk about emergency trimming, it says the city of Hartford will trim any trees that pose a nuisance or immediate threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the public. So it's covering a sign, and you can't see the speed limit sign or whatnot, you know, we can go.
Because I would
There's no
suggest,
specific,
I would suggest that you add, while you're doing this, that you add in Sioux Falls, I believe it's 16 feet above the roadway and 12 feet above the sidewalk.
10 feet on the sidewalk.
What-
We talked about that. We
yeah,
talked
I
about
did print
putting it
Sioux Falls'
in the-
policy,
we're gonna put
there's,
it somewhere else.
Because if you're going to move trimming over onto the property owner's responsibility, I mean, 4-year-old kids aren't gonna be able to walk down the sidewalk and get underneath the tree branch, and they're gonna say, I don't need to trim that thing. So I really think if you're gonna move it over there, you need to put in
Some specifics.
specific height above street, specific height above sidewalks.
Here, or was that gonna go somewhere else? We talked about it.
Did our old policy have 10 and 15, correct?
I think it was 10 and 16 or 10 and 15. I know we talked about putting some basic guidance on how
Municipal
to trim a
ordinance
tree.
430, is that the one?
like I say, and we do have some language in ordinance 430 too, that governs boulevard trees.
I think it would be helpful to have some of that in there, tree center there.
Are you gonna go out and measure them?
Well, it at least gives you, I mean, if
Takes their argument away
If-
from a judgment
right.
call to,
if I've got the neighbor down the street whose tree is hanging way down low, and we can't walk the dog down the street without having to walk out onto the street to get around the tree, and I call down to the city, you have a height to say to that person, the tree needs to come up to this height. If you don't have a guidance or don't have a height in there, code enforcer or whoever comes out there to talk about it is gonna have an argument about whether or not that tree really needs to be trimmed.
I agree.
That's true, yeah.
Yep, I agree with you too, and I thought.
And Sioux Falls does have stuff there, so we could put in,
Yes, Sioux Falls actually drives around every year with a truck that drives down the street and then some other unit that goes down the sidewalk. And it's at the height for the trees. And when they're driving it, if it hits a branch, it keys off on their little computer and you get a letter in the mail that says your tree needs to be trimmed or we'll be out to trim it and charge you for it. And they do different sections of town every year that they do that. I know, because I got 2 of those letters.
Okay.
So we
Well,
can look at adding that if that's.
Maybe look at adding some of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is for discussion and to look
Discussion.
around, so I mean, you can definitely come back again next meeting.
Yep. Anything else anybody sees in here?
So do we decide on footage for street and sidewalk officially?
I think what we'll do is let them come back with a second draft of it.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
let me look, see
Then
what
clarify the
Sioux Falls,
boulevard.
and then, yeah, then we'll clarify that boulevard.
Okay, sounds good.
In your ordinance that's in here, in the ordinances, it says 12 feet, 10 feet where practical, 12 feet above streets, 14.
That's what I was just trying to look up, because we do have some
Yeah,
guidelines
it's
in ordinance.
Page 53 in the ordinances.
Yeah, so I was just looking.
53?
Yep, sorry, I was a little slow in finding it, but I found it.
I know, I've been slow, because,
But it has figures in there. Minimum clearance of any overhanging portion
Yep.
thereof shall be 10 feet wherever
Sure.
practicable, 12 feet over all streets except truck thoroughfares, where it should be 14 to 16.
Sounds similar to what the tree marshal said.
The tree marshal would know. I think he
Yep.
needs a badge if we're gonna do anything. If we're gonna have a tree marshal, I think we need a
Yeah.
badge. Just saying.
All right. Any other items on this? Okay. All right.
right,
We'll probably see that on next
next
agenda.
agenda probably.
Okay, sounds good. Visitors? All right. Sheriff's Department report.
Busy month again, I think I say that every time I come up here. We had 169 calls for service, which I think is a little bit down. 26 traffic stops, 11 car burglaries, but that was still, we talked about that last month, that was just kind of steps from, yeah, that happened right at the beginning of the month. We've had 4 domestic calls, one of them was ag assault domestic that involved a gun being fired. Nobody hurt, well, nobody hurt with the gun. So there was 4 domestic arrests on there. 2 marijuana arrests, 1 meth arrest. I think that started, I don't know if it hit Facebook or not, but we kind of swarmed in on him at the coffee cup. Guy that pulled in on protection or violation, he ended up having a bunch of meth on him, he was the whole works, so.
That's how you discovered it?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Facebook, I know Facebook, so.
Yeah. No, we didn't discover it on Facebook, but sometimes people are coming up to me asking me about what was going on at the coffee cups.
Oh, okay,
I figured it was on the news outlet, Facebook.
okay.
So, but anyway, that was kind of what happened there, is that we got a call of protection order violation, turned into meth arrest.
Okay.
So, again, reiterating that it is in our community, it's all over. It's all over. I guess that's pretty much it for the, I know I kind of keep bringing this up too about what you get from our sheriff's department. We had, day before yesterday, Jen and I were working on a check the well-being on some kids with child protection services. While we're in the process of, there was also an allegation of assault, which initially started the child protection to get involved. So we're working on that call. I'm with the male half, Jenny's with the female half. And then we had a call of a burglary guy breaking into a house and is trying to assault his girlfriend. So for an hour, we had 5 deputy sheriffs in town handling business, which is, it's something that I couldn't get away from. My guy ended up arresting him for possession of marijuana. When CBS did a search of the place, they turned that over to us and we got him arrested. The other guy got arrested after a little bit of a wrestling match. He ended up going to jail for probation violation, I believe. So he was already, he was already on parole. So that was just, one of those unique situations where we just get tied up and we had a total of 5 deputies in town doing work. So this really works out for the city.
It'd be nice this next year when we got that 24/7 coverage, just to know that, hey, when those things pop up,
I think
we've
we're,
got somebody in town.
I'm interested myself to kind of see what happens when we get that 24-hour coverage, we get those same deputies in town, we get, they start recognizing vehicles, they start recognizing people that should not be here. And, right away, they're gonna be bored, so they're gonna be working. I mean, there's gonna be downtime. That's why really smart people don't do this job, because they get bored real quick when you're sitting in Hartford at 3 in the morning, and nobody's moving, nobody's doing anything. So, that actually increases the amount of, time that they're patrolling and stopping and talking to people and just trying to, get through the night. So I'm interested to see what kind of change we have then too. So, hopefully with the burglaries that'll stop. We did have one burglary where some kids stole some packages off a doorstep. Something to think about, pass along that if you got packages, you might want to make arrangements. I'm loving them doorbells with the cameras on. It's, I'll have a civil paper with somebody and knock on, I don't realize that there's a camera hooked up to it, and then all of a sudden we'll get a phone call, yeah, someone wants to know what you want. Civil paper, yeah. So,
I didn't know there was such thing. No.
yeah, the doorbell activates the cameras and it just pops up on their phone. So whoever's at the front door, you can watch it and see it, and of course they'll see the sheriff's.
Ding dong, did
Car
you
there.
still get
So-
them, huh? Okay.
It's gonna get harder to ding dong ditch, so you're gonna have
Yeah, no kidding.
to get a mask.
We've been many times.
Any questions or comments? We're still doing the coffee with a cop on Thursday. We had Sergeant Doobie come in, trying to get more people in there. He's actually from this area. Went to high school at West Central, and he's a sergeant on patrol for days. So that was kind of good for them to come in. Of course, he's like, well, I don't know what to talk about. I'm like, talk about your favorite subject yourself, that'll get the ball rolling.
There we go.
All right, thank you.
So, we'll go to city engineer report.
You want me to run through every item, or?
Tell you what, if you've got any high points you wanna hit on, and I know you got a couple things that we've got a motion on, so otherwise, if there's anything that's not a high point, yeah, if we got questions, we'll ask.
Wastewater treatment facility, not a whole lot of update with that. They're still coordinating meetings with the property owners on the north side of the interstate. We'll be sitting down with them again here in the next few weeks, I think. Vandermark Avenue Sewer Project, Dunick, plans to begin this week. They were actually gonna start today, but there was a little conflict with their locates, so they're gonna be starting on the actual sewer installation tomorrow. But the signs and barricades and stuff are all out there. The Vandermark roadway improvements project, we'll be starting that final design based on our preliminary design that we already have done, and working on those construction documents over the course of the next month or two. The Swenson Park Sports Complex grading project. We plan on having all the rough grading work done probably by the end of this week. Right now, they're installing some of the culverts, storm sewer pipe. A lot of that's in, but there's a little bit left of that, and then the other remaining items are gonna be some erosion control and seeding, which at this point in time will be a dormant seed. And then with the Swenson Park project, we have pay application number 3. That should be included for $173,773.68.
Before we get into the pay application stuff, I just want to throw out, is there any of these 2 projects that are under the category of force majeure?
Which projects?
both Mickelson and Swenson. I mean, Swenson, the deadline's looking good to my understanding, but I guess I'm gonna go to mainly Mickelson because Mr. Assam stood at that podium and really hammered at us July of 2019. And Mr. Nelson will be able to expand on force majeure a little bit more, but I'll never forget that when he said that. And so I'm asking you, as far as is there any chance that is it considered would it be considered a law, or would it be considered an ethics procedure? I mean, act of God.
Something beyond your control,
Right.
something you couldn't control. It's normally defined in the contract.
Gotcha.
Your question is there a weather delay something that
Which we've
may end up
experienced.
being something that's raised as a force majeure? And I think the first question you need to ask is, are they gonna get it done in time?
Right. Okay.
And we don't worry about number two.
Yeah, we don't worry about number two. We don't even bring it up again. I won't do that, guys. Sorry about that. If I just, okay. So looking at July 19, 2019, are we on task?
For both of the projects you mentioned, we have, set completion dates, and we have a mechanism that we usually use to evaluate weather delays on projects like this. The South Dakota DOT has a method of calculating the expected number of adverse weather days. So for instance, if it rains and the contractor can't work, that doesn't automatically mean that we're gonna give them another day, because there's a certain number of days you expect, in being in that field, that you're just not gonna be able to work because of weather. So it's based on, a set number of days per month, and, in each region of South Dakota. So we go back and we'll analyze, how many days were they held up by weather, whether or not those are legitimate days they can claim for, and then we will subtract out any days, that are expected,
Right.
adverse weather days. At this point, Sukup Construction submitted a request for an extension based on the weather, and we're still in the process of evaluating that, because we're kind of waiting until everything was wrapped up. We don't want to tell them we're going to give them days back until they have things complete. So now we're at the point we'll go back in all of our bi-weekly and daily reports, see how many days they were actually held up by weather, subtract off any adverse, expected adverse weather days, and then that's kind of where we'll end up with.
So in essence, if I understand you correctly, the ultimate bump back or whatever is basically up to you, up to Stockwell. Is that correct? Or could Mr. Assam come back and say that my assessment of the weather was different than what Stockwell engineer is saying?
I
Am I getting off topic?
Well, I don't think that Assam
Do
has
you think
any
we're gonna
plan there.
go beyond the deadline that we have set forth?
For the
For getting all of our work done?
for Mickelson Road,
Yeah.
I don't anticipate us going
Okay.
beyond that. I think we know for sure that they went beyond the deadline on that water and sewer portion of the work, which.
Yeah,
we
but
have-
overall project completion.
But overall project completion, I don't see us, I don't see any reason why we would be.
When do you think we'll be done with that?
I'd say final completion will be next, June, early June. I think that's kind of where completion date was.
Okay. Do we have anything tied to this first date of October 19, phase one date? Is there anything tied to that holds them?
They'll have a schedule of liquidated damages for those dates. So the first completion date was, I can't remember.
But I seen an October 19 date.
Yeah, that's the second deadline for the paving.
Sorry, Ross.
Grading.
That's
right. So yes, the October 19th deadline, I think, I don't know exactly what the number, quantity wise is, but I believe it's around $1,500 per day. So if they're not done with the paving, grading, topsoiling, sidewalks on that first stretch, then we're gonna start counting days on that.
So then I'll go back to what Scott just asked. So when do you factor in, because you know as well as I do, that they lost a ton of days this summer due to rain.
Mhm.
They lost a ton of days.
So we.
It's pretty hard to say, you gotta have this done by October 19th, when they maybe lost 20 days this summer.
And that's where the DOT schedule comes in for adverse weather days.
Right.
So if
I
they.
mean, I'm not siding with them or against you guys or anything, but I'm just saying, I know how much water they had out there,
Mhm.
so I know that they weren't able to work.
Yeah. So,
So,
Can we worry about it on October 20th?
yes. Because Mark wants
Even
to.
June though, I mean, really, I mean, until the project's
Right.
done, they may make up a bunch of days here and just have phenomenal weather from now until June.
And I would also say, Scott, if you haven't been down there in the last day or two,
Mhm.
you cannot imagine what's happened in the last
Oh,
day or two.
I've seen it, yeah. No, I see blacktop and everything. Is that what you're talking about?
You should come down and sit on the corner. You wanna know, I'm telling you, they are going like crazy right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Any other
All right.
items on that? Otherwise, let's get to, we got a pay application out there.
I make a motion to approve pay application number 3 for RMS drainage and excavation for $173,773.68.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Hearing none. Nelson?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yes.
Jones?
yes.
Okay. All right, before we get to application 5, you just think you want to talk about on?
yeah, on Nicholson Road, water and sewer work is substantially complete. I think included in our engineer's report, or attached to it, there's a letter from SUCUP requesting substantial completion inspection for the water and sewer work. We granted them, substantial completion, I guess, at the point. After we inspected, saw that the water and sewer work, for the most part, was done. There still is a list of punch list items that need to be completed, which we sent them, and they're currently working on. The asphalt paving is going on right now. It's going well. We're moving pretty quick. As soon as the asphalt's done, SUCUP plans to come back and finish any topsoil work, kind of the boulevards, and they'll also pour any of this sidewalk that still needs to be poured out there. So they're working towards that October 19th deadline. And then we're expecting approval of the Clomar pretty much any time now.
Omar, is that the thing we need to get the box culvert set?
Yeah, that's just the FEMA's mapping stuff.
So I understand from talking with one of the SUCA guys that our box culvert also has a bike path lane through it.
Not necessarily. We built it, or we designed it in a way that if at some point in the future the city was interested in putting a bike path, we sized it appropriately so that you could potentially pursue that option.
Okay.
But we're not going to build a bike path through the.
Okay, I'm just curious. We found that out the other day, so we're always nosing around.
Make a motion to approve pay application number 5 to Suka for $222,167.05.
Second.
Discussion? None. Jones?
Yes.
Brennan?
Yep.
Keel?
Yes.
And Nelson?
Yes.
Okay. All right, anything else, Russ?
That's kind of all the major items I had.
Good, thank you. All right, for Craig, Karen, and Teresa's report, just hit on any high points, anything that you want discussion, direction, anything like that beyond what's in there. Otherwise, I'll open up for questions. We'll start with Craig's. Anything on Craig's report you guys got questions on, or anything that you're looking for direction on, Craig?
Nothing for direction, just if you have any questions.
Okay.
I had one of our friends on Railroad thank us for the second application. It's been working wonderfully.
In the nightmare, the ground is a shit.
Yeah.
Trying to keep them in shape, so.
I know. Especially now that trucks are coming in, right?
That long, drizzly days with the half-inch rains,
Yeah.
just potholed them so bad.
Yeah.
We're working on it, we'll keep them in shape, hopefully.
But it keeps the dust down.
That it does.
Dust is not bad.
Greg, I got a question on the trees.
Okay.
The treating 32 trees, where did you come up with that? Just because of budget numbers?
Do you want to discuss that when it comes up?
That's coming up.
I mean, I could certainly touch on it now, or we can wait until,
I'd like to wait.
Yep, I'm good.
okay. Then I'll just go through that whole portion of it then, at that point, if that's all right.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good, thanks, Craig. All right. Karen,
I have nothing
anything?
to add,
Nothing
unless
to
you
add?
have any questions.
Different? Okay. And Teresa?
The only thing, I have just a couple things. The ISO audit, we did have that yesterday. That was Monday yesterday. We met with the gal. This is the insurance exchange. It kind of sets our insurance rate for the city. It's kind of basically the same thing that the fire department went through. The fire department gets one rating on, their equipment and how well they can respond. Well, this is on the building code side, and it's rating the city, do we have the right codes in place? Do we have an inspector? Do we do this kind of inspection? It looks at what the city does. Do we have guidelines for floodplain and that different stuff? So they kind of work together, and so this too can affect our ISO rating for the city, which is, the people's insurance ratings. So I just want to let you know, we had, that meeting, that audit with her. It'll take almost up to a year to actually get a final rating done, so don't expect to know what a new rating is, next week or whatever. She goes back to process it, it goes to the main corporation. She said this could be almost a year process, so just letting you know that.
So the ISO rating that you gave us at number 4, about 4 months ago, was for the fire department only?
Yeah, it's
And
looking
then-
at that section
Then
of
this
it.
part of it will have that response. Then at that point, there'll be an overall city of
Yeah,
Hartford
they work
ISO
together,
rating?
they give you an overall, the insurance companies look at both, and they figure out an overall insurance rate for you.
So
Yeah.
it would be incorrect to say right now that Hartford is at a 4 ISO. We're at a 5 right now, right?
We're at a 5 as far as
Yeah.
building codes and whatnot, yeah,
Okay. It
exactly.
could be up to a year before we get to 4, knock on wood.
If we can get up to a 4.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we're doing anything different now that we did the last time we had the audit. I don't know what more we can do besides having a full-time staff and, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just hoping we keep it the same
Yeah.
at this point, which is a pretty good rating for a town our size.
Sure. Okay.
And the only other thing is the fence along Crestman Trail has been moved, so. I'll let you know that, just within the last couple days. They're working out today and yesterday, I think, so.
When I inquired about that, you're too kind, you should have said, check your packet.
Oh.
I was at work and I couldn't check my packet.
No, that's fine, no. So, otherwise, I don't have anything else to add unless you have any more questions.
Did you get another chance to talk to the Augie and USF about the rec director plan?
Yes.
Like I said, when I came back, they both had asked if we had like a job description. I said, yes, we do. I sent it to them.
Okay.
They basically said, thank you, we will talk it over with our department again.
Okay.
I have it on my calendar, actually check with them
Okay.
on Thursday to see,
Yeah.
hey, where do we go from here, so, yeah.
The other option this council could do is increase the budget for that position and just make it full-time and then re-advertise.
I think I've heard that before.
Just an option.
Just an option.
I think I've heard that before.
I shouldn't be laughing, I'm sorry.
Alright. Alright, thank you, Teresa. Nothing on our old business, new business, we have review or approve the job description for part-time snow removal help and approve advertising for the position. Any major changes there at all? On that snow removal?
Basically, just the dates to reflect this coming year, the compensation, you know, we had set that back in 16, it gives us kind of a broader range to hire somebody if we're having difficulty hiring somebody. But otherwise, no. Otherwise, yeah.
You need an approval on this?
Yeah, I'd like you to approve the job description and then let us go out and advertise it so we can.
I move to approve the job description as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second for that. Discussion?
And advertise.
I think we'll do that, yeah, we got this one, we'll do a second motion.
Okay, okay.
Nelson,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yep.
and Jones.
Yep.
Make a motion to approve the advertisement for the temporary part-time snow removal position for the city of Hartford.
Okay. There's a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Council gonna have to approve the hire?
No, this is a part-time position, so it'll be just administrative.
Recommendation.
That's good. All right, Jones,
Yes.
Brennan.
Yep.
Keel,
Yes.
and Nelson.
Yes.
All right, good. All right. Now,
Now you've talked to
review the Emerald Ash
Yes.
Borer Management Plan. Yes, yes, yes.
So I don't know,
Good.
for you, Craig, you kind of worked on kind of the plan of what trees we'll try and keep, what we won't, and kind of let maybe him take.
Yep, I'll start out here. So I went around here last week, whatever it was, and had Jesse, we blew up all the maps of town and the areas where we can mark them. Went around and what we came up with is 253 boulevard trees is what we have for ash trees. Out of those, well, we kind of also threw an estimate out there, it's not in here, but non-boulevard trees, there's probably 3 times as many as that, 2 to 3 times as many in town. So there's quite a few ash trees in town. Went down to the park, and between the parks, we came up with 106 in the park. So there's 96 or 94, something like that, in the main park, and then there's some on Turtle Creek that we put in quite a few years ago. When I went around with 106, and that tree's got on the map, so I'm just kind of going off this one here. We went through and we marked down where every ash tree was at. And as I was marking them off, I was looking at them to see what they were doing as far as, were they given a shade, were they getting old, were they dead in the center, were they having a lot of dead branches in them? We kind of went through them and marked off the ones I thought we should try to save at this point. Not knowing how many inches I had at the same time as we were marking them off, and if I thought it should be saved, I went around with a tape measure and measured the circumference of it to get the diameter of it, and came up with the amount of inches in that. Like by the pool area there, there's 5 that are really nice trees I'd like to try to save. There's one other tree there that's pretty decent, but it's underneath the light. So eventually it's gonna cause problems down the road. Let's see what Mother Nature does with it. Throughout the playground area and that stuff, the shade trees around the playground itself, the equipment are all ash trees. If there's some other new ones starting in there that are between and betwixt them, that'll eventually give us some good shade. So we went through them all. Like I said, I physically looked at each tree to see which ones I thought should be saved, which ones we should take our chance with Mother Nature with. And when I came up to it, came down to like 23, I think it was, or something like that.
Take City Park.
31. I'm trying to think if that's the whole park. I can't remember my notes.
24 in the park, in the city park,
Yeah.
and then 8 in Turtle Creek.
Yeah, so number on this, my report's wrong. So, and when then I took that area there and added up all the inches of the trees, we came up and it's like 400 and some inches. I must have my goodness. Yeah, so we came up with, 38 there. So I came up with just shy of 500 inches. I got a price from Mike just on kind of what he would charge us to do it. And he says they're gonna vary anywhere between, you might find somebody as low as 8 inches or $8 per inch. What you're getting, you wanna make sure whoever when we do get around to doing this treatment of it, if we do it, We wanna make sure that somebody that's a good arborist and knows what they're doing, because some of these guys are cutting back on chemicals, they're giving you a better price, but they're cutting back on chemicals, or maybe not injecting the tree with the right chemicals. So you wanna make sure you get somebody that you trust and like that. He just threw a price out there, he said if the city does it, he said I'd do it for $9 an inch. He said if that many trees. So when I figured out we were about that 45, right around there. The trees are gonna grow a little bit over this winter and spring, you know, before we would get around injectors, so you're gonna be close to that 500 inches. But for now, like I said, we went through and kind of figured the trees we'd like to try to save. When we did budget, we were actually throwing a $5,000 number out there for treatment. We thought if we have to do 5,000 this year, maybe 5,000 next year, something we can afford to do. But with what looks like we should save, we could save pretty much the trees that we really should try to save for under, or right around that $5,000. If we decide to do that and next year decide to try to save some more, then we can budget some more for next year and look at some other trees in the park and see if there's more we can save. So that's kind of what it came up with the park. The boulevards, that'd be part of our discussion here with, it's hard to pick and choose which trees you're gonna save in boulevard. So either you, basically, we came up with the thought that we should just, where the city takes on no responsibility for the boulevard trees and lets the homeowner, if they have an ash tree they wanna try to save, let them put the money into it, because you'd hate to do a 50-50 or something like that with them, and that homeowner moves out in 2 years. You got your money invested in it, he moves out, the next guy says, I ain't doing nothing, let it go.
Right.
So,
The
along with
new
that,
policy says if it dies, we'll take it down anyway, right?
yep, yep.
So,
And that'll keep, and you don't wanna go through and just start cutting every ash tree down. You might get lucky and you might miss some trees, you know, you don't know, and that's part of the thing they were hoping that some trees will survive and some won't. You know, and you might get 10 years out of them before they take, you know, before they start dying off. You might enjoy that tree for 10 more years. In the meantime, like in the park, we'll start taking the bad ones out, or the ones that are really getting old, take them out and get some new ones started, so we try to keep some shade in that park and keep it looking like a mature park throughout the years, so.
cause this will never really go away.
No, I don't think you'll ever get.
So we need to start a replacement cycle, the
Yep.
next tree, so then
Yep,
another
and we've
bug
been-
can affect it.
Yep.
But,
And back
I mean,
in,
it's inevitable, it's just gonna happen. I
Yeah.
mean,
in 2000, I think it's 2001 is when I first recognized it in the United States.
Michigan, wasn't it?
Yep, in Michigan, yep. Once that hit, we were already on the street side of it during our conferences, and that we were already having John Ball and a bunch of different arborists come and talk to us about it. So we haven't planted an ash tree, well, we did, correction, we have planted a few, but it's been like less than 6, and that's just in some areas that we could not get anything else to grow in, so we planted an ash tree in there. So over all those years, we haven't been planting any ash trees. So we've been proactive for this thing, waiting for it to get here, just wondering when it was gonna be here. We better hope nothing ever kills ash trees or hackberries, because if it does, we can hardly have a tree left in the park. So, there's a couple elms around, there's a hybrid that we're starting to plant a few of them now too, but the park is, majority of the park right now is hackberry and maple and ash.
So do we need to do anything on this? I mean,
Well, I'd like you guys to, if this is the plan, I'd like a motion at least to adopt this management plan, so then we have a guideline of what we're doing, you know, and it's approved by the council.
I have one more question for you. Craig, that whole string on the, I'm gonna call it the east side of the park and that southeast corner, man, that live.
There's a lot of maples that, you know, you can't, I'm only showing you the ash.
Ash. So there's other,
There's a
so,
partial row of maples on the west side of those ash, and
okay.
then there's some apple.
I know there's a lot of trees in
Yeah.
there, but boy,
This
that's,
is planted like a forest for some
Okay.
reason.
Man, that
And a lot of the
just
trees
really
aren't doing very good because they're overcome by the other ones.
Okay.
There's some big ash, there's some huge maples in there. If we'd lose the ash in there, we'd still have some nice looking trees in there.
okay, okay. It just looks,
And that
it just looks bad when you look
Yeah,
at it.
and that might be something that, this initial one is when we wanna make sure we get aggressive with what
Yeah.
we wanna save. The other ones, if we don't get it for 5 years, 10 years, we can still go back, if we have budget money, we can treat some of those in there and try to save them. But if it would happen to hit next fall, then those are already being infected, so you'd have to really consider if you think the chemical's gonna do its job or not.
And Mike will know if they're infected. I mean, so he'll help you manage
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, he's on top of that stuff, yeah.
I see what you're saying, Art, when you look at the map, it looks like,
Oh, that looks terrible.
probably just save every other one.
Geez, no kidding. That's, when I looked at that side, I thought, oh, that just looks terrible.
Yeah, there's twice that many trees, if not more, in that
Yeah.
little area, yeah.
Yeah.
Craig, can you specify who you wanna work with in your proposal?
No.
Alright, I'll make a motion to approve the Emerald Ash Board Management Plan and work with Mike Smith as our consultant and contractor, applicator,
Conservator of ash assets.
the ash protection.
Now we got a motion,
Second.
okay, discussion?
Have you talked with anybody else?
I have not met with anybody else, because actually, this doesn't come into budget till next year, so I was gonna get some numbers in, unless you guys just want to specifically go with Mike. I mean, I know, I've heard some other numbers out there, but most of them, when I first started out, they're all talking about that, $12, $11 to $12, $13 an inch. So it goes by the inch of the tree.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So, and Mike was originally talking about $10, he thought he could come down to, and last time I talked to him, he said, if the city wants to do it, he said, I'll throw a number out there at 9. He said, you can get other bids or whatever you wanna do, so.
And I personally have seen other bids at 9,
Okay.
so that's why I'm comfortable with it, and I have a lot of confidence in Mike,
I really do too, as far as.
and he's, you know,
Well, I think that unless the price changes and he becomes unreasonable in price, he's gonna know every ash tree here in town right before it's all set and done, so.
And that's something I definitely, before we start treating, I'd walk through with whoever we go. If we go with Mike, I'll walk through the park again with him and have him look over the trees with me again and just make sure we're doing the right thing for money wise. So.
Right. Right. Okay, got a motion, second, more discussion? Vote. Jones?
Yes.
Brennan?
yes.
Keel?
Yes.
And Nelson?
Yes.
Okay. It's good, that takes, I don't have anything for correspondence unless somebody has anything they wanna bring. We do have, we need to go into executive session for legal personnel.
Make a motion to enter executive session for legal and personnel.
Second.
Alright, motion second.
What did he say? I told you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
If you want to do it, yeah, go for it. It's fine. Okay. Because last time they talked about it, Mitch got it. Just 25 foot or something like that. Yeah. So everybody's going out.
See you, Ross.
Yeah.
Go and get some sleep so you can pay some more money.
Yeah, we got.
We're running into about 342 of the software, but hey. Anybody had any issues updating their computers to the latest version of Windows 10?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Any opposed?
Oh crap.
We should send